Morning everyone, and thank you Neve, and also big thanks to Matt and the brilliant team at Radio Centre for the invitation today to talk to you a little bit about the future of radio in cars and what Radioplayer is doing to keep it strong. To really get you fired up, I might even use sexy words like metadata, and I know you're going to enjoy that. But also a big thank you to many of you in the audience, because I'm sure that probably a lot of you would have been supporting Radioplayer for a number of years now, and we're very grateful for that. Radioplayer started just over 10 years ago in the UK, founded by the BBC, Global, Bauer and Radio Centre, and those guys are still our main board members today. And although we still do our consumer apps and web players, our main aim on behalf of broadcasters, is to keep radio strong in the car. And we do that by creating partnerships with leading car companies. So we have two partnerships at the moment, one with VW Group and the other one with BMW Group. And those guys, just on their own, represent about a third of new car sales in Europe. And we've got about 1.5 million cars on the road today being powered by Radioplayer. And our focus is the radio button. It's the broadcast radio experience in the car. We believe that needs to be what we call hybrid radio. That's where DAB and FM works together with the internet to create a really rich experience. And the good news is, when we're having these discussions with car companies, is that we know that broadcast radio is still the most important audio source in the car for car buyers. And we know that because at the end of last year we researched it. So in partnership with other organisations like World DAB and others, we spoke to 6,000 car buyers who'd either recently bought a car or were about to buy one in 6 major markets. And we asked them what they thought about radio, how they valued it, how important it was, and against other audio sources. And the results, frankly, were amazing. 80% of people planning to buy a car in the next 12 months said they were less likely to buy a car without a radio. I think that's a stunning result. Almost 90% ranked broadcast radio as the most important audio feature in the car. That was more than online music services, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. And 90% said that broadcast radio should be standard in every single car. Now that is a stunning result, and it really speaks to the way that people value radio in the car and just how important it is to them. So we're in a good position, but we absolutely cannot afford to be complacent, because there are big threats and challenges facing radio in the car today. And that's because the automotive industry is also facing big macro challenges. Electrification, which we all support, it's a good thing, but there's a lot of new electric car brands, more than just Tesla, coming into the market, and they're innovating really fast in the dashboard. They've got a blank canvas. Connectivity, all new cars are now connected, and that brings in the opportunity for more streaming services to compete with radio. We're also seeing much bigger, higher resolution dashboard screens. So the visual experience of radio needs to be as good as it can be to compete with other apps in the car. And finally, and importantly, big tech companies are eyeing up cars and the dashboard as a place for growth. So there's some big challenges facing radio, and actually the picture on the screen now sort of encapsulates that, because this is a picture of a Polestar. This is the new electric car brand from Volvo. And this is a really important car because it was the first production car that uses Google's Android Automotive operating system. So that's software from Google that's going to be driving the entertainment dashboard experience and the instrument cluster, just about everything you see in the car. And that's really important, not only because it's there, but also because we know that in the next 4 to 5 years, probably around 70% of new cars will come with Google's Android Automotive software powering it. So what does radio look like? Well, you can see there is a radio button. There it is. Maybe not as easy to find as we used to, not as prominent as it should be, given the results I just showed you. And Google does describe a broadcast radio experience in their software, but unfortunately, it's not very good. It's not hybrid, which we think should be the minimum experience, and it's comparatively quite poor with other apps. And the important thing about Android Automotive is that it creates an app ecosystem in the dashboard. It allows the user to download applications from the car direct to the dashboard. You don't need to tether your smartphone anymore. So against that backdrop, with lots more competition, it's really important we work to get this technology right. So what's Radioplayer doing on your behalf? Well, there's a few things. First of all, as I said, we're partnering with car manufacturers, creating those collaborative partnerships to build the radio experience, and we're also talking to Google about improving what radio looks like in their technology. We're also, wherever we can, pushing for radio prominence and using things like that research and car buyers and drivers' love for radio to make sure radio is as prominent as it can be. We're also, in our partnerships, securing user analytics that we can share with our broadcasters, and there'll be more of that from us in the future. And really importantly, we're creating our own hybrid radio technology to share with car companies, using, here it is, broadcasters' metadata. Metadata is the information about your stations that brings it to life in the dashboard. This picture on the right is from, we went away about 2 or 3 years ago and started to build our own hybrid experience in Android Automotive, in that software. No one else had done it. This is one of the world's first hybrid radios, and we make that software available to car companies for free, and it saves them months, years even of development, because we want the experience to be as good as it can be. And that reference design there shows your metadata being used. It's just our reference design, but you can see the station logos, the station information, kind of brings it to life. Now, I mentioned earlier that one of our partners is BMW, so I just wanted to show you a quick snapshot of what a sort of radio player powered radio looks like in a BMW. This is a screen grab, a sneaky peek of the BMW iX50. It's one of their electric cars. I'm just going to show you a quick video snapshot of what their radio experience looks like. You can see, this is the home screen, a big radio panel, really easy to find radio, prominent, easily accessible. We have some user experience criteria, and prominence and accessibility is one of them. Another one is search. So search should be done via what we say an A to Z list, really easy to scroll down and find the station that you want, or it should be. BMW's screen is really clever. You can see here, it actually brings in the colours of the logo. So actually, I think that really emphasises the brand as well. That's on BMW. The other thing that's important to us is integrating DAB and FM, and you can see in the station list, you default with DAB, but if the station's only available on FM, that will still crop up in the station list. But it's, as I say, what they're using is our metadata, so the station logos, the information about the show, is all coming from you through Radioplayer. And if we get your now playing data, so information about track and artist, we can also show either artist images from you that we pass through to the dashboard, or from our own artist image library to alongside your brand in the car. So that's a quick snapshot of what we're doing with BMW. I hope you agree, it looks like a good experience. But what's coming in the future? What's the environment going to be like in the car in the future? I just want to share a few things just to get us thinking about that. So, although autonomous cars are a few years away yet, so that point where you can actually take your hands off the steering wheel and driver distraction is no longer an issue. That's a bit further away. But for the passengers in the back, the car's really becoming an entertainment hub. This is a 33-inch drop-down cinema screen from BMW for the passengers in the back to view things, and there could be a radio experience on that screen as well. You can see more of those screens in other cars too. This is virtual reality gaming. This is available today in some high-end Audis. And you stick this headset on in the back, and actually as the car moves around in your game, you move around as well. You do not want your driver wearing one of those. Absolutely not. So you can see the car's becoming an entertainment hub, and we just need to be aware of what's going on in that space. But we also need to really think about the immediate presentation of radio and how you find it. This is an image from a company called Zinc. They're an American startup. They've just signed a deal with Mercedes. They're effectively an entertainment app, and they bring together video, gaming, and audio and radio in one place. I show this just to make the point that I think this is an example of how car companies are going to start to think about the presentation of entertainment and radio. More of a content-based presentation rather than a source-based. It's a bit like Netflix, right? And we need to make sure that radio is easy to find, easy to discover in that kind of environment. We also need to think about user journeys and personalization. So someone's listening to your station, can they easily get through to some associated podcasts or on-demand content? Can they easily find sister stations from the same group? Could you even take them through to a transactional element where you're buying tickets to, I don't know, a concert or an event that you're putting on? All those things are going to be coming in the future. But it's not just about the big flashy tech in the car. Mobility and automotive is changing dramatically. And this is a really good example of that. This is a small car called the Citroen Ami. This is an ultra low cost, couple of grand, electric car. And they have stripped out everything. There is no dashboard screen. There are no speakers. It is a steering wheel and 4 wheels. And what you do is you download the Citroen Ami app, and on there will be a radio button. And we need to make sure that when you press that radio is still a great experience. Now, the other thing that's worth noting about this is that in France, you can drive this if you're 14 years old. In the UK, wisely in my view, the regulators said, "Ooh, no, we're not having that. You've got to be 17." And as the father of a 16-year-old who can barely get his trousers on in the morning, I can tell you that is a really, really good move. So, it's a whistle-stop tour, and I'm happy to talk to anyone in the break and what have you, but to summarise, we must remember that radio starts from a fantastic position. It is still the most valued audio source in the car. However, there are threats, and with those threats, there's also opportunities, and we need to work collaboratively with a single voice in talking to car companies, and to that end, we really, really value your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was so interesting, and I am massively into electric cars, so I learnt so much. Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
Laurence, we've got a few questions quite quickly, if that's okay.
Yep.
Got one here from, Anonymous. Really? Here we go.
This could be a killer question.
If broadcasters had to do one thing to help ensure a strong future for radio in the car, what would it be?
Okay, that's a really good question. I'm going to do one main one and then a little sub one underneath it. So the main one, I mentioned that word metadata, that information about your station, but that holds the key to a great experience in the car, no doubt. So if you're providing us with that data, that information, the experience of radio, of your station in the car, is going to be so much better. You know, the station logos, but the tracker now playing information, even to get voice control right. I mean, we didn't have time to touch on this, but providing us with info about how people ask for your station will ensure that we can help the car companies make that experience great, and they can easily find your station no matter how they ask for it. So definitely that one thing. And then the second thing I mentioned at the end is just support, because the car companies need to hear from one voice, I think. You know, they can't speak to all the broadcasters. So helping us with that metadata, speak to them, I think is the best thing the broadcasters can do.
Absolutely. Another one here. When dealing with large car brands, do you find radio is competing with music streaming?
Well, I made the point earlier about the competition that's coming into the car, and there's absolutely no doubt that radio is competing with other services, not just music streaming. And the car companies are looking at that digital environment. I showed the Polestar there. You know, in the future, car companies are going to come with that kind of environment, and you'll be able to download those apps directly to the car. And I think the car companies see that as a source for revenue. So there is focus on that. That said, things like that research, and there are many people in the car companies who know for a fact, they still know that radio is their most important audio source. So we need to keep shouting about it. We need to keep, you know, being vocal and noisy about how the experience needs to improve. And if we do that, then and keep doing research like that and creating great experiences, then I think radio will be fine.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Laurence, and the whole team at Radioplayer.
Pleasure.
Thank you.